I see that in social relationships as well, that people are very self-critical. A lot of people come in who have types of social anxiety, and there especially there's so much self-criticism around, people are not going to like you, people are going to think that you're weird or inappropriate in some way, and people really avoid social interaction. Obviously with depression, we see people who are really self-critical and have this sense of like, I don't deserve to be happy. So that's a huge part, I think, that cuts across all different sorts of issues that people come in, from relationships to school to family problems. And I think the first thing for me in working with people who have a lot of self-critical thoughts is to help them to identify them, because most people are so fused with the thoughts that there's not any separation. It's just taken as reality. This must be true, because it's so much a part of them. And so I think first just noticing, like, these are the things that you tell yourself. Sometimes that is really eye-opening for people, because they don't think of it that way. They think of it as just what's true about the world, and that's why it's in my head. So when people kind of stop and reflect and just notice that this is just a thought, actually, and maybe doing some exploration into their past about where this came from and how they started to think about themselves in this way, creates kind of this separation and no longer identifying as strongly with the thoughts. And then often I'll use different elements of voice therapy to help people actually directly challenge the thought sometimes. And then I think one of the most important pieces is starting to actually act as if the voice wasn't true. So I'm trying to think of an example. So like if somebody, let's say somebody has social anxiety, since I already talked about that, and they're telling themselves these things about, people don't like you, you're, creepy, you make people uncomfortable, you should just kind of stay away, you shouldn't put yourself out there because you're going to be rejected, these sorts of thoughts and voices. What I'll do oftentimes is first kind of doing this like cognitive diffusion piece, which is about like, okay, this is what you're telling yourself, and it's not even something that you're trying to, it's automatic, and that kind of separating this idea of like, just because you think it, it's not necessarily true. So I'll do some work with them around that to get a little bit of distance, and then helping them sometimes actually directly challenge the voice. So to say, this isn't true about me, I'm not creepy. And oftentimes people have a lot of difficulty doing that. People are so used to just accepting this as the truth that it's very hard for them to step out of that and to take their own side. And so oftentimes what I'll do, maybe as an intermediate step, is to have people do some data gathering. Like I'll kind of recruit them as a fellow scientist, and this idea of like, okay, so you think that people are, don't like you and will always reject you. What if we test this out? What if we put you in social situations where you're interacting with other people and you can see, and just kind of be objective about how are they responding to me. And almost across the board, people at the very least have a much less negative experience than expected, and oftentimes have a really positive experience. And just the act of approaching situations that they used to avoid is really empowering for a lot of people. And so then we'll use that as kind of ammunition to challenge the self-critical voices when they come up, because now they have examples of, I can point to this time when these people actually liked me and they asked me to go, hang out with them again. And then the last piece is just continuing to take actions that are in line with this new view of themselves as somebody who's not going to be automatically rejected. So continuing to take risks. And we'll do this in kind of a systematic manner where it's not going to be overwhelming and feeling like they're kind of jumping into the deep end, but where they can kind of take incrementally challenging steps towards undermining that self-critical voice process. And it's remarkable how that can change people's lives. Just not accepting those really self-hating thoughts as true. Even just having more doubt in there and starting to acknowledge that this might just be something I've been telling myself and not something that's actually accurate. People kind of come alive to the degree that they can accept that, they come alive.